Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. On Wisdom Wednesdays, I share tips on baking. So today I have a special guest. Say hi, Mark.
Hi, everybody.
Mark is going to help us understand how to improve the quality of artisan bread baking. So we have a seminar that's going to be coming up here tomorrow, actually, and it is going to be sponsored by Irex. And we will be talking about the industrial production of artisan breads. It's a very, very sticky situation. So, Mark, tell us, what are you looking at in terms of improving the quality of artisan breads?
Well, there's sometimes it's just little things. I mean, a big part of artisan breads is the long fermentation times and things like that. And so, if you add much more than flour and water to your starters, you're going to lose most of any of that effect anyway, because of that. It's such a long time that it's fermenting. So, but it's everything afterwards that we can kind of help things along a bit. And what I've done is I did a little miniature experiment here, using some diastatic malt flour from our friends at Irex, to basically look at what if I did a standard 4-hour sponge baguette dough with just a 63% absorption, and you did some with malt, with 2% malt based on a flour weight, and without malt, with no malt at all. And that goes in at the dough stage, right? And quite interesting results. They're not huge differences. They become more amplified in your process, perhaps. I'm also working with a home oven, so there's some maybe perhaps other things in precision. But
interesting. Yes.
But it's interesting.
Can you show us what it looks like?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a loaf. Here's a baguette that was made with no diastatic malt.
And that's made at home?
And this is made at home.
You're like super skilled. I can't make an artisan loaf look like that at home.
And I don't have a baking stone right now, so I make a little cheat, which I could talk about some other time. But the thing that is interesting to me without the diastatic malt that I want to point out is why I'm sticking this in the camera like a big nose, is if you look at how flat the bottom is, and how the edge, how it sort of flows out this way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, the breaks looks nice. The break looks pretty good where it was cut, and those turned out pretty good. And so I'll just bring this one up separate first, and then I'll come back. Right. So here we have a little bit wider break. We almost have an ear on some of these, on the grin, as they were. We remember one person calling it. It's slightly browner. That's also because of the reducing sugars that the malt creates, right? And when I put this on end into the camera, you could see
it's so much more
rounder. It has this rounder kind of edge. And so this is part of the strengthening effect in the gluten that we get through fermentation.
So that's you see more like a oven spring then?
It gives us a little more oven spring. The volume is ever so slightly larger. It's hard to see on camera.
Yeah,
and I don't have a volume measurement machine here, but if you look at them on the camera, you could see that this is the this is the non-diastatic and the diastatic, right?
Okay, so the control on my right and the test on the left. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's hard to see the difference here. They look pretty much alike, but the diastatic malt one is just slightly taller, and look to me when I sliced it.
Looks more circular, and
yes, more circular, and it looks to me like it was a little bit larger, right?
So what does it look like inside, Mark?
No, here we go.
Significant difference.
This is the inside of the non with no malt, okay, and we have a few large pores, but it's kind of irregular, right? And then there's a lot of small ones again and things like that. And here we have a few more of the larger pores, and it's a little more regular. There's a greater distribution of the larger pores, so that it is actually slightly more open in that sense. It feels a little softer. Now, that's just going by my specialty measurement machine here, right?
I was going to ask you.
My texture analyzer, right? And when I tasted them, there's a much nicer, fuller fermented flavor from the malt, right? The one without the diastatic malt, it still tastes like nice bread, but it doesn't have that fermented note, that nice from, that you expect from a sponge and dough kind of more, right? So it's really quite pleasant. It's quite surprising. And that even just in this quick home experiment, and I chose a very lean dough purposefully to basically have no other ingredient influencers that way. So the less we have on other ingredients like milk powders or anything else that could affect it, I just wanted to do straight flour, water, salt, yeast, and the malt, and it's quite interesting. And so I have a nice library from IREX that I'm looking forward to producing some other ideas and seeing some of their suggestions in the seminar that we have coming up. Right?
Yeah, they sent me a box of Bakerpedia Taste and Aroma Taste Kit. How cool is that?
It is phenomenal. Yeah,
we can test it out and try the different malts and
different malts. There's spelt sourdough. There is durum sourdough.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, is there a difference between the different kind of malts, like the diastatic malts?
Well, there are non-diastatic malts available as well.
Okay.
Non-diastatic malts have the enzyme deactivated. There is still, from other ingredients in the malt itself, it still has a bit of a relaxing effect on the dough, but it provides a lot of flavor, is what it does. So, and non-diastatic malt is used a lot in pretzels to give it that nice malty flavor in the pretzel. Where you don't necessarily need a lot of fermentation, right? And then they have other malts there that, depending on the source grain, yes, it does change the flavor, right? And I'll be looking forward to trying some of those out and to see how we get things. I'm doing a test today as well of the Tangzong method, the roux method of making bread. And I've seen a lot of different ones, but I've not seen anybody do whole wheat. So I decided to.
You're going to make a roux out of the whole wheat?
I'm doing a 100% whole wheat to see how much nicer a sandwich bread is.
Good luck.
Right? Well, the advantage I have a little bit of cheat on my side, being that I'm in Canada. And the whole wheat flour in Canada is not stone ground. It is engineered whole wheat. That is, they separate off the clears and the germ and the bran, and then use a high ash, a 60 ash flour, and mix the bran back in. So you get a much better baking flour because it doesn't have all of the clears and the germ in it. Right?
I tell you, these malts taste fabulous.
Excellent.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, those are fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. So do you actually smell that when you bake it?
Yes. Oh, yeah. The whole street smells wonderful today because my kitchen vent vents out to the front of the street. So everybody's been saying that it smells like there's a bakery on our street. So.
Yeah. Make sure you try some of this barley malt in there. It smells fabulous in your Tangzong method and see what happens. Did you bake anything else?
I baked some pan loaves from the same recipe. Just to see the difference. You see, volume-wise, you don't see as much, but you can kind of see this is the one with the malt where the corners are a little more rounded. So it's again also the flow, and you can see the strength of the break there's a little more shred in the one with the diastatic malt, right? So it's strengthening the fermentation and the gluten, right? As well.
How would you know if you do a cut on the top of the loaf that doesn't affect the volume and the performance of the loaf, though?
Well, these I simulated a water jet split.
How do you do that?
I do that by taking a piece of string, like a dense twine, and I soak it in cold water. I let it soak in water while the bread is proofing, and then just before putting it into the oven, you lay the string across the top, and the string creates a weak spot, so to speak, in the crust, because it keeps it moist. And you just leave it there for the whole bake. And when it comes out of the oven, it just pulls right off. It doesn't stick, right? And that basically gives you that split without influencing it with the knife. Now, if I can cut them all, because I was trying to do an experiment, I do that.
I can't do a cut that's identical on
exactly.
On
it's very hard to do, the amount of force and everything, right? But you can get pretty close. If it was a small retail bakery, of course, I would just cut them because they're going to be relatively close. But for something where I don't want my experiment result to say, well, this one split more than that, is it because I cut it deeper? Or is it because of the strength of the loaf? And this way, I know it's the strength of the loaf because I use the string method to basically produce that split.
Nice. Great job, Mark. Now, I know that bakers can use malt as a solution to extend the softness of their bread over shelf life. What do you think of that?
That is, you have to increase the levels a little bit higher. And again, it's because of the effects it has on fermentation and the enzyme activity it produces. And so that it seems to retard the starch retrogradation. So there's less stale, or the staling is much slower.
Yeah.
And it helps keep those gluten proteins softer, so they're less chewy in a way, right?
Interesting.
And so that seems.
So what level would you recommend it at?
It doesn't have to be huge, but that's like, say, at 4% of the flour weight, right? I mean, you can go. You can see anywhere malt is used anywhere from like 1 to 4%. At the 3-4% level, you're also going to get a fair amount of flavor, but it's not objectionable. A lot of people like it, right? In bakeries I've worked in, where I've done like a German style bun for sandwiches and things like that, it was very much desired. So it was, and that way our buns would stay nice and soft all day for the sandwiches in the cafe and things like that. In France, in traditional baguettes, it's starting to disappear slowly from what I'm reading, but for the most part, they use fava bean flour. It's essentially intended for the same effect, to help keep the crumb slightly softer a little bit longer. And people in France are very much used to that flavor, that note. But gradually, more and more, there's more and more malt being used as a preferable flavor, easier to work with, better volume, and more consistency and things like that. Right? The fava bean apparently is born out of centuries ago as part of crop rotation. So that is how it ended up getting mixed into the mill, even at some point, is a story I was once told.
Now, I've also received other things in this little treasure box. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because we have a spelt sour.
Yes, there's some interesting sours. There's a spelt sour.
Yeah. What are the sours? Do you think it's interesting?
I think that would be great with rye breads, or also it in the gluten-free range. Spelt is considered a gluten-free grain. Now,
I don't know about that. I think it's easier digestible. But...
Yeah, And there's also some liquid sours in there. There's
one
liquid sour.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have it. They must have it pasteurized or something.
Oh yeah, it's liquid sour. Whoa, that's really strong.
Yeah, it's potent. Yeah.
Dare I try it? It's going to add some sour to your. Did you try it yet, or are you going to try it?
No, I haven't had an opportunity. I've just sniffed them a little bit. The aromas are wonderful.
Sour for sure. Yeah. It'll be interesting to try this.
Yeah. And the other one I'm very curious about is the Durham sourdough. That I think is kind of a cool idea. Right. I wonder how that is. Right.
Yeah, Durham sourdough. Oh, here we go. Really good. Yeah, so we are going to look at all these sours being used tomorrow. Thomas from Erex is going to show us how to use this. And it's still not too late to sign up.
Yes, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of sign-ups for this particular seminar. And hopefully you're able to attend. It's 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Mark and I will be co-presenting this particular session on industrial artisan bread baking. And we would love to see you there. Thank you for coming on today on my Wisdom Wednesday, Mark.
My pleasure. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.